Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sarah and Adam Show. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Sarah, how are you and your shade? How's your shade doing?
It's about to get shadier. How are you?
It's good. I'm good. There's a lot of shade in Moria. I mean, in Khazad-dûm.
In Casa Dune? Man, yeah, we have a lot to go over. There was a lot
Phew.
this week.
There's a ton. Oh man, there's too much to keep up with, honestly. So today
hmm
we're talking about. Do you want to go over what we're talking about? Do you want me to?
Um,
You talk, I talk, everyone talks.
who talks first?
Should we just both say it at the same time, like what we're thinking? Like no one can understand what we're saying because we're talking over each other.
And that's when people turn off the podcast.
I know, but maybe we could take turns saying words. So you
uh,
say one word and I say another one.
we
Like,
can finish each other's sandwiches.
yeah, ah, that's not. I don't think I'd like your sandwiches. They have to be gluten free.
Mm, yeah, they're not very good. That's true.
Sandwiches do not have souls.
No.
Mm.
Um, okay, so you did say this. There is a ton to talk about this week. You couldn't even keep up.
Including
Um,
gluten free sandwiches, apparently.
yeah, they're really dry. Um,
It's like my humor.
yeah, it is. So okay, let's just bite the bullet here and get it out of the way. Neither of us have watched She-Hulk this week.
No,
That was
too much.
the sacrificial lamb, unfortunately.
Well, because you've been out and about, like traveling, doing important for you stuff, and I've had a very busy week as well.
hmm
And frankly, I think the other problem is if I'd had a full week to watch She-Hulk,
hmm
I could have found time to watch it. And
Totally.
probably you too. But She-Hulk just came out earlier tonight, earlier today, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It came out today. So,
Yeah, we're recording
um,
on Thursday evening.
mhm,
So we've had less than 24 hours, and it came out on the same day that 2 hours worth of Rings of Power came out.
right. And both of us had to watch, or chose to watch House of Dragons today. House of the Dragon, whatever it's called. The Dragon Show.
Dragon Show.
So She Hulk kind of fell by the wayside, unfortunately, which I actually am sad about because,
Mhm.
especially after watching House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, I was like, man, I could go for some humor, some Marvel style humor right now.
I agree. It's. I'm glad that it's the way that like that style of show instead of something super serious and intense and crazy.
hmm
I don't. I would that'll be kind of a nice break from like the Rings of Power is going to be pretty intense, and the House of the Dragon Force, whatever it's called, is
Dragon Ball
is
Z.
gosh,
Uh,
the Dragon Reborn is
there it is. We've come full circle.
full circle.
Uh,
But it's very intense too. I don't know if there was a single funny part in it actually.
there wasn't. Yeah, yeah. It was a very intense episode.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about, so we have some news stuff to
hmm
talk about, and then we'll talk about House of the Dragon
hmm
first, and then we'll talk at length. Probably the majority of the focus is going to be on Rings of Power.
hmm Okay, so what's this news? Because you were on top of the news this week, not me.
Right. So, and man, I didn't write all this down. I actually probably have more stuff to say, but Bad Batch for one. All right, so Bad Batch is a Star Wars show, an animated Star Wars show, and it's already had one season. Looking forward to season two. Actually, really enjoyed it. And my boys really loved season one, so they're going to be real excited to watch that. And right now, it's scheduled for September 28th. When Andor was originally scheduled, it was scheduled for the start of the month, so a
hmm
full month apart from Bad Batch. But now Andor got kicked back, I think, a little bit because these other two heavyweight franchises chose to release their shows right next to when Andor was. And it's like, well, maybe just give them a little space. So Andor's September 21st, Bad Batch is September 28th. They'll overlap for for a couple months, in fact. And so there's this rumor going on right now that Bad Batch is going to get kicked back into somewhere in October or November.
Oh, really? I hope not.
I kind of hope it does because we have too much to watch,
We
frankly.
do. We do have a lot to watch, but I really like Bad Batch.
I really like it too. My boys and I are watching Rebels right now. So we have something to watch. It's okay. But yeah, I look forward to it. I just this is going to feel a little bit like we did when this show originally started, when we were doing Wheel of Time. It's like, hey, we've got the show, and now we just only have the book to talk about.
Right.
For forever, for the conceivable future.
And now it's all shows.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
Yeah, and now there's so many shows. I wish it would be really nice if they just chained them all together.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what Disney was doing before. So I'm a little sad that they stopped doing that, because it was great when one ended and then the next one started. I was like, I just go from one show to the next, one franchise to the next franchise. It was awesome.
Yeah. No, totally. So there's that. There's also the there's a lot of different Star Wars shows in the works right now. I'm excited about basically all of them. The Ahsoka one keeps looking more and more exciting. There's going to be a Visions 2, apparently. Star Wars. Which, did you ever watch that? The Star Wars Visions?
I didn't finish it. I think I watched 2 episodes.
Yeah, it didn't appeal to me. I know people who like anime were real into it. I gave it a good try. There was just a certain point I was like, I'm just not enjoying this. I don't want to hate this genre. I think I'm just going to, there's not canon. We're just going to call it good.
And I mean, that's the really good thing about this stuff, where Marvel or Star Wars or whatever, there's so much of it that you don't have to watch it all if you don't want to. You don't have to watch the show that doesn't appeal to you.
It's true. Yeah. So that was lots of good Star Wars stuff in production. The Skeleton Crew is also another show that Star Wars is coming out with. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it, yes. I don't know what the premise is, but I've heard the title.
Yeah, so from what I know of the show, it's they hired Jude Law, first off.
Oh.
And he's potentially, I'm sure he's not the only grown-up, but the idea is that a ship crashes and it's full of kids, but he's the only adult.
Oh.
And they're stranded somewhere.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So that lots of cool stuff coming out in the next year for Star Wars. There's no shortage of things. Wheel of Time got the thumbs up for season 3. House of the Dragon got thumbs up for season 3. And I did want to talk to you just for 1 second about the Andor layout. It's looking pretty interesting, actually. So what do you know anything about how they're planning Andor?
Okay, so I had heard that it was supposed to be, or it is supposed to be 5 seasons.
It's been downsized twice now.
Oh man.
Now it's 2 seasons.
Oh, that is a drastic downsize.
It is, yeah.
Holy. Okay. So yeah, I had heard that it was supposed to be 5 seasons, and that obviously you're following Cassian's life. So I'm assuming it's going to end leading up to the Rogue One movie type of thing. But I didn't really know what the rough plans were, if it would be starting at whatever time and then having flashbacks, or what the idea was. I'm assuming it's probably something that they're going to do. But now it's going down to 2 seasons?
Yeah, so here's the layout that they've given us. The first season is all in the same year. They kind of planned it. I think it used to be that it was 5 seasons. It was going to be each season was 1 year leading up to Rogue One.
Okay.
Now this is year like 5 away from Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all of season 1. Season 2 is going to be broken into 3 episode segments. So it's 12 episodes total. So it's going to have 4 different segments of 3 episodes each. And each of those segments is going to be 1 year closer.
Oh. So like 4 mini arches in one.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
So yeah. So we have 1 full season of getting to know him and all the characters and everything, and then 3 episodes of being 4 years away, or 3, however it works out. And then the next one is a year closer. The next one's a year closer. And then the final episode, they said, is going to have Cassian and Cassian leaving to go get intel from the guy on the planet, the rings of whatever, at the start of Rogue One.
So did they say for the second season, with them having these like segmented episodes or whatever, is it going to be one season that airs consecutively, or are they going to do like this new thing that like Netflix is doing where they release part 1 of season something and then they wait a little bit and release part 2 of this other half of the season?
I haven't heard that. I don't know that they care about that yet. Maybe they probably will. I'm sure they're watching Netflix to see if it's going to work for them.
Right.
But yeah, I did want to mention that because so the first season is going to just feel like a normal season would, and then the second season is just going to be kind of disjointed a little bit. But he hasn't met K2SO yet, so we're not going to have Alan Tudyk and him in the season 1. He'll be in season 2 though.
All right, I'll take that.
Very well. Otherwise, yeah, why don't we talk about House of Dragon, unless you have other news?
No, let's talk about it. So this was episode 2 this week.
It was. How did you like it compared to episode 1? In broad strokes.
Okay, so obviously way less violent, which was great. I thought this was much more on par with what I would enjoy.
Crabs eating people. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, other than that, but I don't think I loved this episode. There were some really weird things going on in it, and then I'm still waiting for like this like hook I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it was a lot of building for Rhaenyra, however you say her name.
Didn't they our town?
Our town. Yeah, I feel like it was just the whole episode was essentially just building her up, and we got to see more of her and her like her personality and all of that kind of stuff. So it was okay.
I thought it was interesting. What's the brother's name? Damon or something?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I liked him a little better this episode, actually.
Okay.
Ironically.
Yeah, I could see that. And I actually enjoyed the interaction between him and our town.
Yeah.
She was just, calling his bluff, basically.
Yeah, she's just like, this is my castle anyways, dude.
Yeah, she's like, if you want it, you gotta kill me, and then doesn't do anything.
Yeah, so the thing I liked most about him, though, was actually when he was talking to Corlys or whatever at the end.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can say what I want about my brother. You can't.
Right.
And it was another little glimmer of him actually loving his family despite his actions.
And that is a very like family sibling type thing to say. Like, I can poke fun at you, but no one else can.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's kind of the trope of like, I can hit my brother, but if you hit my brother, I will destroy you.
Yeah.
Like no one hits my brother but me.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, he was a bit more tolerable. But Sirius is just weird. I'm not vibing with him. He's a weird dude. Um, he almost seems like a shell.
A husk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he does. And I just have to think he didn't want the throne.
Right? Like, does he? It kind of feels like he's just like doing it because he has to. Um, yeah, I don't know. He's just did
Well,
not.
and
Ugh.
you can't necessarily also, I mean, okay, so he's in a job that he doesn't necessarily just love. And it made my skin crawl seeing all those maggots, by the way.
Yeah.
And having him, he's just like sticks his hand in there. But I mean, I would probably do it too. I just couldn't look at them while they did.
Mm-hmm.
uh, but
Ugh.
yeah, I know he's just having conversation while he's doing it. But you have to think, first off, he doesn't really necessarily love this job anyways. He has a sense of duty, but now his best friend in a lot of ways is dead. Like his wife is gone. He's just listless, and people are
Mm-hmm.
trying to marry him off to a 12-year-old. Like
It
how
just
awkward is that discussion? Like
it's
when he was walking with her,
oh
and it was they tried to make it awkward and really gross. And it's
mm-hmm.
like he can just hang out with his wife and talk to her, and like they're friends, and
Mm-hmm.
like they deeply care about each other. And it's going from that to I'm really going to chain myself to a 12-year-old.
Well, I mean, it came across so creepy, and like I remember just seeing her on the screen next to him. I was like, he looks like he's out for a walk with his daughter. Like that's what it
Mm-hmm.
looks like or something.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, but his decision at the end was not any better. He goes from a 12-year-old to a 15-year-old who also is his daughter's best friend.
Right. Well, and so there's kind of a hint there too that maybe she's also been uh more intimate with him actually than
Yeah.
just their talks, because Hightower, his hand is like, are you gonna go to like to the king's bed tonight or something like that? And she's like, if you want me to.
Right. So it's hinted at plenty of times, but still, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just weird. And then he just didn't, obviously gave no notice about what his intentions were to his daughter. She was like, yeah, well, you know what? I get it. You're going to have to do this again. You're going to have to marry again. And he's like, yes. And agreeing with her and not at all being like, I'm going to pick your best friend, though.
Well, that puts such a strain on their friendship,
Mm-hmm.
really.
It does. So it's a very interesting and odd thing. So I'm curious what's going to happen. I feel like that's going to create. I'm expecting a rift between them now.
I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, because I watched that preview video that told me basically the whole story, or at
Mm-hmm.
least a big part of it, I actually a little bit know what to expect. So I'm not gonna.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
I think what you're saying is very rational, though. It's logical. It,
Mm-hmm.
it makes a lot of sense. Like yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do
Mm-hmm.
with some of this stuff. I am interested. This was a building episode for sure.
Yeah, it
I
was.
I did like Rhaenyra's just going and taking things into her own hands, because
Right.
it made me feel so frustrated the way they just shunted her off. But
Can
she's like, "What about this?" And
can
like,
we
I'm
acknowledge that?
yeah, they're like quiet, like adults are talking, basically.
But also like it's very obvious that it was like you all just bent the knee to her, agreed that
Mhm.
she's the heir, and are just like, no. We just did that for show.
And she's the cupbearer still.
Like you can just go play with your dolls.
Hmm.
Like, ah. I when that was happening, I was just so frustrated. I could feel her frustration. I was like, this is annoying. So I did enjoy that she just did it anyway and was like, look, did exactly what we should have done, and no one got
Yeah.
hurt in the process.
Oh, and I liked her choosing the guard, and they're like, "Oh, what about the political?" And she's like, "No, I want my dad to be safe. Let's pick someone who's actually going to defend him well."
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like she. I like that she's asserting her will where she can.
Yeah, yeah, where she's allowed to, or where they will allow her to, I should say.
Well, and even when they won't allow her to, she just goes and does it.
Yeah, you know, just do it first and ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, or not forgiveness.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting too. She was talking to her dad, and she's like, "Oh, about the meeting earlier today?" And I think she was trying to say like, "I wanted more say in it," and he was like, "Oh, don't worry about that." Like he took it as her for asking for forgiveness.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, you'll learn. Don't worry about that." And I think she was like, "I No, I wanted my say. That's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Not don't forgive me for that."
Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting thing to see, which is why I think this like I it was just such a building episode in general, but also just building for her character.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't an episode that I was like, wow, this show's gonna be so good. But like I'll watch the next one and see what
Yeah.
they do.
I'm kind of looking forward to I'm looking forward to their action
Yeah.
against this, against the usurpers, against the people who are messing with their shipping.
Yeah. It's gonna be I think it'll be good. I think I'm more interested to see like how this whole Damon thing goes down, and also like what's gonna happen with Allison, because that seems like it's gonna
Sure.
be, I don't know. I feel like that's gonna be a tense area.
Yeah. And don't need to dwell on it, I guess. I do want to say like I appreciate it. There's like no gratuitous like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
relationship stuff that I just didn't. If it doesn't further the story, then I don't necessarily think it belongs there. Like that's the thing that I've always found distracting about the other ones and about the previous Game of Thrones series is what I mean. And I just like that it was blissfully like gone. Like there's still marriage discussions and all of that and
Mm-hmm.
questions about this that sort of thing. And that's totally relevant and fine to the story. It just it was nice to not have to be distracted by that. So
Yeah, and they
I'll keep
hinted at
watching.
it without showing it. So
Yeah, that's all I need. Like I don't eliminate it entirely. That's not a human can like we're all human. We have to acknowledge that human side, that side of
mm-hmm.
humanity. We don't need to we don't have to spell it out in exact detail. So we can
Right.
move on. But anything else about House of Dragon?
No, I think that was it. I'm definitely interested to keep watching. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's earned itself another week.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, and it was renewed for another season too, right?
Yeah, it was. So it's just doing real well. Um,
Yeah,
so we'll see. We'll see how it keeps going. So,
yeah, not bad.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so Rings of Power,
Yeah,
Lord of the. First off, I gotta ask: you said you were planning on watching Return of the King
it
before?
was. Mm-hmm.
Did you
I did
did you
not have
manage it?
time.
Okay.
That's gonna have to be a. I'll probably watch Return of the King sometime over this weekend, maybe, in chunks, because it's gonna be a long movie. But yeah,
It is. So yeah, it's the longest one.
I just had no time, like with the traveling and everything. I was like, okay,
Mm.
there was I should have just not gone to work today. Then I could have
Yeah,
done it.
could have done all the things. You could have just spent the whole day in front of the screen.
Right. So, yeah, so I went into it. I watched the 2 episodes today, only having watched or rewatched, I should say. I have seen Return of the King. I just haven't seen it for a while. Um,
Mhm.
so only having seen Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers recently.
Which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to revisit that world, but at the same time, I mean, Return of the King doesn't touch on what we're watching for what
Right.
for how House of the Rings. Gosh,
House of the Rings, Rings of Power,
Rings Reborn.
whatever show we're on next.
So, all right. So, what were your thoughts on
Okay,
Rings of Power? What did you think?
I
And
I
what are your
actually
questions?
I actually want to know what you thought because you were so excited for this as a Lord of the Rings fan, and then I'll tell you what I thought.
Hmm. Okay. I I'm I really enjoyed going back to that world.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool, and there was a lot of really, you can tell they dumped a ton of money into the show.
Right.
It is beautiful. It is totally lovely, especially Kaza Dune. Moria.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it becomes Moria. Like just totally. Soundtrack was actually, I noticed. I the only time I actually noticed the soundtrack was during the Kaza Dune scenes, but it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
They did. I want to see more dwarves. They seem rowdy and filthy and awesome.
They do.
And the elves seem very snooty and kind of like I would want to. It's an interesting thing because there's not a huge amount of information about the second age, really. Like there's a lot of information about specific times and things that happen, but then they have to fill in a lot of things. And so one of the things that isn't filled in a lot is the humans. So the humans who helped the elves in the final war against Melkor, against Morgoth, they were sent to the island kingdom of Numenor
Mm-hmm.
and given long lives and all the cool technology and all the cool everything. And the people who the humans who were more on the side of Morgoth, or who didn't actively help the Valar fight Morgoth, they were just left in their squalor, kind of.
Right.
And so and the elves are just hanging out there. They're like, well, we got to watch them because those guys, they're not trustworthy. It's been 1,000 years, but we still don't trust these guys.
Right. Okay.
And so it's really interesting seeing them kind of fill in some of these gaps of, yeah, that's pretty plausible. I felt like. And I mean, I'm a lore guy for Star Wars, certainly, and I really like the lore of Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
of Middle Earth. I don't know all the really really nitty gritty details, and so for me, a lot of the stuff that was happening, I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Um, I think my biggest question of the whole thing was, we just watched a quarter of the whole first season
Right.
because it's only going to be 8 episodes, and I feel like the plot has advanced almost zero,
Mm-hmm.
like very very little, and I would like to. We need to. There's questions that need answered, a huge number of questions, and the for the timeline to work the way it should. I'm like, I don't know if you can afford to take this much time. I'm not sure, but I don't know.
Right.
Um,
That's a good point. Do you know, are all of the episodes supposed to be an hour? Probably.
I do not know.
Mm-hmm.
My guess would be probably
Mm-hmm.
if both of them were an hour. But yeah, so I liked it. I thought it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They did not include the city of Numenor at all, and they are central to the story of
Right.
this whole drama. They are incredibly important, and so that's also like, they showed Numenor a lot in at the end of season of episode 2. They showed the preview for the rest of the season, and they show Numenor a lot there. So hopefully now we'll get to see them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall I liked it. I want to wait and see. they built the world well. Now we've got to figure it out. So we could talk about more details, I guess, in a minute. But
Mhm.
in broad strokes, I liked it. What about you? What were your thoughts?
Um, it did not hook me.
Okay.
I think part of it is that like I don't know the history of From This Age or anything. So for me, when I was watching it, I didn't understand why like that what's his face soldier was watching over this town and why it was like, oh, you can't be talking to her, like you can't be doing this whatever thing
Right.
that you're doing. And it was distracting because I had these questions about it that weren't being answered. Um, and I felt like they were trying to um, kind of lay out all the different races and all the different, you are here and you're here and whatever. But it wasn't really explained why. So I think that was a little bit of a distraction. I liked the second episode a bit more than the first one. Uh, I just overall had a ton of questions. I agree, like you can tell, totally agree with you. You can tell that they spent a ton of money on it. It does look really good. I really like the music. Um, but overall, I don't know. I'm gonna keep watching it. Like I'm intrigued by it, but at the same time, I'm like, I need more information, and I feel like I just didn't
Sure.
get it.
Well, the part with
Mm-hmm.
Arondir, whatever, and the watch post elves and stuff, I feel like they did answer that a little bit of just they're out there to watch and to watch the humans to make sure that they don't like start any shenanigans. They want to keep them down, kind of.
Right, but why?
They're policing them. Well, because they don't trust them.
Right, but they like that wasn't explained was my point. Like I was like, okay, obviously you're watching them for whatever reason because you don't trust them, and obviously there's a thing here that you're not allowed, like some kind of boundary you're not supposed to cross or whatever. It just didn't feel well explained. Even the bit with like the elves at the end with Galadriel and then her kind of abandoning. I got why she did, but I didn't really understand what they were doing.
Oh, like where the elves were going and stuff.
Yeah, it was just like one of these things that I was like, I don't.
Yeah.
You know what it felt like? It felt like when I had somebody message me during the first season of Wheel of Time that hadn't read the books yet, and I obviously had read the book before then, so I knew a little bit going into it. And they
Right.
had the same thing. They had all of these questions. Um, and I felt like that. I felt like I was watching it and I was like, oh, I just have so many questions. Like I don't know what's going on.
Okay, that's fair. It's tough for me because I'm tempted. I'm not saying that this is how I should. I'm tempted to just be like, well, maybe you were distracted while you were at work. If you're watching it, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe there were some of these details that they did cover. And I just think that there's also a really good chance that because I'm a big fan and I know the setting way better, like a lot of things were just real obvious to me.
Right.
Like things that might not be obvious to a more casual watcher. So uh yeah, I mean that's something to look at for sure. I as a fan felt like they explained everything. I understood all the things that were happening. I don't understand what's going on with the meteor guy, the guy who came crashed
Okay.
down.
Yeah. Don't understand that at all.
Yeah, there's some really weird so one of the things that is interesting is uh the fire doesn't burn, the fire doesn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's I don't know there so there's an aspect of the fire that is it like okay, so in Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
they when the ring when they're holding the ring, they put the ring in the fire, you remember.
Yeah.
And then when when Gandalf drops it in his hand, in Frodo's hand, he's like, no, it's quite cool. And he touches it, even though it's metal and it's been in the fire, they know it's going to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, the meteor guy is also like, all the fire that happened there is also,
Doesn't burn.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that I thought that was an interesting element to it. But I don't know, that's not explicit. I thought it was interesting. They also had, the sign of Sauron, and the big question is, where has he been? Where has he been? It's been 1,000 years, and in some ways I'm like, why can't you just enjoy your 1,000 years of peace? 1,000 years of peace sounds pretty nice.
Right. Um, I did. So I do like the interaction between like the Meteor Man and Nori. I think that's her name.
Sure.
The Harfoot. That I really enjoyed. That actually is an aspect that I was really liking of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I like her
Yeah.
character a lot. I am curious about this though, because you were mentioning that one of the things in here, or that people had brought up, was that there's Harfoots, and like Harfoots don't do anything of importance in this age, basically. And it feels like they're setting her up to do something important. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that's going to be a no-no, or if she is not a Harfoot, like they kind of sort of. It seems to be like they're hinting that she's not a Harfoot.
Oh, maybe. I think she's probably. I mean, her dad's a Harfoot. I think she is.
I'm assuming she is, but there was one scene where they seemed to hint at it, and then I didn't know if it mattered that when she also went into the fire, that like the fire didn't burn.
Okay. So there's actually a lot going on with that interaction, which is really interesting. Right now, I'm actually reading The Hobbit with my two boys,
Okay.
and so it's a lot of fun to read it with them. And one of the things that they just continuously continue to bring up is that the hobbits don't want adventures. They're not adventurous. Like if you're a good hobbit, you don't want to go on an adventure. If you do want to go on an adventure, you are disreputable.
Right.
And
Okay.
and you could totally see how the hobbits would have evolved from these Harfoots
Mm-hmm.
in over the course of a couple more 1,000 years. They would have pretty easily evolved into this, into what the hobbits are now. And there's that element to it. And then I can't tell what I want what I even want from this mystery man. I think that's what the subtitles call him, was mystery man or something like that.
Right.
Because it's very clear he's magical of some sort. He's bending trees,
Yeah.
manipulating fireflies, just can't even talk. But it makes me think that it's Gandalf.
The Meteor Man is Gandalf.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because Gandalf is one of the what Maya. I think that's what they call Maiar,
Mm-hmm.
and what that. A lot of creatures are actually that, and they kind of take different forms. So the wizards, there's actually 5 wizards, not just the 2 or 3 that we see in Lord of the Rings. There's 5,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all Maiar. And there's Sauron is actually a Maiar. The Balrogs are all Maiar. So they're all they're all that kind of creature, but they've evolved into totally different types. And the wizards were introduced mostly, I think, in the Third Age. Like they didn't have much to do with the Second Age. So I don't know, but the reason I think it might be Gandalf is he has traditionally in the Third Age always had good relationships with the hobbits, and always like hung out with them and taken
Right.
care of them. And no one else even knows where the Shire is. He just keeps it hidden. He knows where the Shire is. No one else in his order, not even Saruman, no one knows where the Shire is.
Mm-hmm.
because he keeps it hidden because he loves them. And this seems like a really great way to start that journey of, he loves this people and he wants to keep them safe.
Okay. Okay. I like that theory.
uh, and I almost think that maybe that's what they want us to think, and maybe there's going to be something more subtle and devious about it.
Right. And that, it's just a ploy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also kind of laughed at what's the little boy's name? Is it Theo? Theo or Leo
Yeah.
or something? When he in the second episode when he's like telling his mom to run, go get help because whatever he's got in the basement coming up out of there. Um when that thing came up out of the floor, I immediately thought of Moon Knight.
Why is that?
Just like the visual of it, I immediately was like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. And then I struggled to like take it seriously because
Okay.
I mean, and obviously that wasn't what it was, and you see like his little mask thing fly off and everything, but it was entertaining to say the least, and it made me struggle to take it seriously.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what that blade is going to be doing.
That is, yeah, it is something that I also have been paying a lot of attention to because I think he's going to be pretty important. Um, and he definitely has it on him still. So it's, yeah, I think between him and Nori and with like the Meteor Man, I think that's what's going to keep me interested in the show. Which is funny because I went into the show being like, the only person I know is Galadriel.
Hmm. Well, she's not that interesting yet. Like, she's very
Right.
clearly conflicted. And it was super weird to me. So what do you want me to explain what she was doing with the boat and everything?
Yes,
Like where she was
please.
going?
Yes, please. Because I was like, I don't understand why she's abandoning.
All right, so you saw the very start of it. They give a really glossed over version of the first age
Yeah,
of
yeah, very
so
glossed over.
they start in Valinor. That's
Mm-hmm.
where the world started, where Iluvatar, Eru, the god essentially,
Mm-hmm.
he created the Valar, he created the Eldar, the elves, and they all lived. They had the trees before the sun
Mm-hmm.
came. She's talked about that, like that. The first few scenes were in Valinor. This is before the first age, and then the Silmarils were forged by Fëanor. They kind of talked about that a little bit with Celebrimbor and Elrond a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
The hammer of Fëanor. He created the three Silmarils. Morgoth stole them, fled across the ocean. The elves followed. They had a big war. Blah blah blah, and everything. So Valinor is the place that the elves started. That's where
Okay.
and so they considered that to be home,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where Galadriel was born. She is that old. She was born like
Oh, okay.
because the elves are functionally immortal.
Mm-hmm.
They don't die unless something happens to them. So what happened was then at the end of the first age, the Valar said, "No, no one else can come over here. Like gates are closed.
Mm-hmm.
We're done. We came and took care of your threat. We dragged Morgoth off. He's no longer a threat. Let's go tend to your own stuff. We're in the same world, but we're separate."
Right.
Except apparently, and I don't know if this is in the text or not, apparently the elves every once in a while can send a group of people back to Valinor to live forever in peace and harmony. Like that's kind of like heaven on earth a little
Right.
bit.
So they were sending them back.
Yes, but and that also means you'll never
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
come back to Middle Earth. It's essentially it's like if someone was like, "Hey, Sarah, you're awesome, and do you want to just go to heaven now?" But
Right.
heaven totally exists, and they're speaking credibly. Heaven exists, and you qualify.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to just like not be on Earth anymore? Just go to heaven right now.
Right. Okay.
I mean, a lot of people probably would just push that button. Frankly, like, yeah, I'll go. I mean,
Right. And then okay, so then she is abandoning that trek.
right,
Mhm.
because she knows that evil is still out there, and she
Mhm.
doesn't feel like she can just leave people to face it without her direct intervention, I guess.
Right. Right. Okay. That's fair. Um yeah, cuz she hasn't she's not the most intriguing character, at least to me so far in the show.
Yeah. Well, the elves are so snobbish to humans. It's very
Mhm.
interesting because I mean, I've talked to I've at least told you personally this. I don't remember if I've talked about it on the show, but the elves and the humans, like the elves really struggle to see the humans as, as equals, because the elves, they're like, they kind of explored a little bit with Elrond. He's gone for 20 years, and his buddy Durin is like, where have you been, man? It's been
Right.
20 years.
Right.
Like, and then you just come in here and expect me to welcome you.
Mhm.
And Elrond's like, yeah, I mean, because Elrond's been alive for thousands of years. 20 years doesn't seem like much, but like Durin said, to him, it's a lot. And
Right.
and dwarves live a long time compared to humans. Humans, the the humans just they keep dying, and the elves don't want to form attachments to them. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yep.
if 20 years is it's just a blink of the eye to them, they just blink a couple times and it's two new generations.
Right. Right. Which is okay, that's fair. Um yeah, I did like that interaction too with Elrond and Durin. I thought it
It
was
was
funny.
fun.
It was
Yeah.
fun. I thought it was a good, like, it just felt like one of your friends calling you out for being a bad friend. Like,
Yeah. And Elrond, like, he showed like a really good side of, oh yeah, that makes, damn it all, like, yeah, let's try to mend this if I can. The show, he
mhm.
handled it really well.
Right, exactly. So I thought it was good, and his Durin's wife was great. I really liked her. She was
Yeah.
hilarious.
I
Um,
liked her a lot too.
yeah, so I thought that was really good. But yeah, I thought other than that, I think Galadriel probably was the, I don't know, most blah ish.
What I think is going to lead up to, it showed in the previews,
Mm-hmm.
is she's going to go to Numenor now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Numenor is, yeah, it's so important. I kept wondering, when are they going to show Numenor? You got to do this. This is so important. It's a huge part of the story, and I think that's what we saw at the very end, was that there's a shadow of a ship,
Yep.
like a guy looking over, and I think that's a Numenorian, and it's one of their ships, and they're gonna pull in Galadriel and the guy,
Right. The other dude.
the
Um.
dude, yeah, with
Yeah.
the rope and the half ship.
The other thing that I really liked in the show, what they were doing, was how they were kind of like illustrating the map of the world and
Yeah.
moving places, and then
Mm-hmm.
like they had like the text coming up
Yeah.
to say where you were, and I really enjoyed that. I was like, this is great, because then you could just follow along and know you were in a different spot. So.
Yeah, they overlaid the map. I loved that too. That,
Mm-hmm.
you're right. That was a really cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't. I want to know what's up with the weird. They called them hunters or something. The weird, like humans, but with weird wing things.
Yeah, yeah, they're weird.
I If they're in the lore, I have never. I don't remember anything about them at
Okay.
all.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw them and I was like, okay, I don't know what you guys are.
Yeah, the Harfoots or hunters, and like,
Mm-hmm.
that's weird. It's a weird world. It's a strange place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's but yeah, so the elves are just, they're so high and mighty, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and I can understand why the humans would be like, oh gosh, here comes the elves, but here come the elves, they think they're so great, and the elves are like, would any of you live long enough for us to actually get to know any of you?
Right.
Please. Like, that's why humans and elves don't mix,
Mm-hmm.
because, well, that's one of the reasons, but there are pretty long-term repercussions for the elves and stuff too. If they want to choose a mortal, then they become mortal themselves.
Right. So that's a pretty serious repercussion.
I guess. Well, it's also fun to see elves, like the military elves with short hair. It's weird.
Is it?
To me, I mean, all the other elves that we see in Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think you've seen the two movies that deal most with elves
Yeah.
actually in Lord of the Rings?
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any elves that had long hair or had short hair? Just curious. This isn't a test. I'm
No, I can't.
I don't. Yeah, I kind of don't think that there are any.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't think of any.
Uh, it's just kind of fun. Like it makes him more militaristic, though. You can tell. Oh, it's an elf, but he's in the military.
Mm-hmm.
He's a soldier elf.
It's like a uniform.
Yeah, I'm guessing that that's a sticking point for some people with the lore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that is an issue that people don't like about it. That they'll decide to, oh man, I hate this show because of all the lore things. Elves don't have short hair. I don't see why not. Frankly, it's a pretty small detail, anyways.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair. Okay, any other thoughts on it?
I don't know.
It was.
I mean, I have a million thoughts,
I know.
but
I know. It was well, and I feel like it was also a little bit overwhelming because it was we basically watched 2 hours of it.
yeah, it was like a full movie length. And it just started the show. I mean, the thing is, it's such a grand scale. I guess that makes sense that they wouldn't show Numenor yet. They needed to establish all the current characters,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll introduce this big kingdom, this island kingdom.
Right, and then like obviously they want to have multiple seasons of this, so
5, yeah.
mm-hmm. You're gonna have the arc going across all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be very interesting. So Celebrimbor, yeah, I'm super interested to see. Like, I don't want to give spoilers for people who don't, because it seems they're going to be following a lot of the stuff fairly closely. I'm very interested to see how they pull a lot of this stuff off. Mm-hmm. Oh, at the very end with the dwarves, mm-hmm. they open a chest, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. I have a pretty strong idea of what's in that chest. Do you have any idea?
I had no idea what was in it. I was kind of hoping they would show it.
Yeah.
So, what do you think it is?
I think that they've just discovered Mithril.
Okay.
That the little shirt that Frodo has.
Yeah.
It's like the best metal ever, kind of, for in fantasy. That's always. I mean, I guess in fantasy you can get Mithril and you get adamantium, but in Lord of the Rings, Mithril is crazy rare, and it's also the thing that turns Khazad-dûm into Moria, because they keep digging so deeply and so greedily for more Mithril that eventually what the Balrogs of Morgoth, he created all the Balrogs, and when he died, when he got dragged out, all the Balrogs fled to the deep places of the earth, and the dwarves die, like they dig so deep that they waken the Balrog, and he comes and just basically rousts them all out.
Oh boy, that's actually man, that's gonna be interesting, because I feel like that would tie into so many other like make things, all of these like loose ends kind of connect.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm very interested to see what all happens, what transpires. Right now I'm intrigued by a lot of storylines, but not. You're right. Like in a way, I was hooked on some things, and other things I'm like, I just really enjoyed being in the world again. Frankly, right. A new content for Middle Earth that was enjoyable, and it feels like Middle Earth, and it looks like Middle Earth, and we'll see if the storyline and characters are good.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely curious about it, and then I just want to see what's going to happen with some key characters so far.
Yeah. And they didn't make anyone I was like, oh, this is super poorly done.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
like the
Uh, it felt like they were really taking care with what they were doing.
yeah, it did.
So
Yeah. I'll be interested to see what nerd outrage levels are. The thing, I mean, I'll end up watching a lot of different videos for different groups, and some of these groups are already predetermined they're gonna hate it.
right.
They're sure it's just awful, and if you decide you want to hate it, I guess you'll hate it. There's plenty of material for that. I think that if you're willing to enjoy something that's just a little bit, I mean, I don't know why. Such an interesting thing. Like if you create an original story, no one can be like, oh, that never happened in the books. That never like that. You just completely leave that side of possible criticism
Right.
out. And yet, when you create the books and you create a fandom, and then you're like, well, we have to do change some stuff. They're like, no, you can't change a single thing. We're gonna hate it regardless.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
yeah, it'll be interesting because, like you said, there's people that are already like their minds are made up. They're not gonna like it. So
Yeah, and some people who have their minds up, they're gonna love it no matter what too. And
yeah, that's true. I feel like I'm just gonna take it at face value. I'm just along for the ride.
good. So you should be.
So we'll see how it goes.
I mean, I hope I like it. And
Hmm.
if you're gonna watch it, I'm sure you hope you like it too. Because why watch something you don't enjoy?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Uh, do you have any last things?
Mm, I don't think so. I feel like I touched on everything that really stuck out so far.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just see what
Okay,
happens.
nice. So, do you want to talk about what we're reading real quick?
Yeah, what are you reading right now? Are you on a new
So, still
book?
on Dark Force, right? Yeah, I guess they started Dark Force Rising. That's the second book in the Thrawn trilogy for Star Wars, the
Hmm.
old legend stuff, and it's just very interesting because they make Thrawn a different character than
Hmm.
the current Thrawn, the canon Thrawn is. Um, trying to think of the. I had thought of something to share with this on this cast, and then I totally spaced it. They're
And you haven't read this version of the Thrawn books before, right?
total tons of
Oh,
times.
you have. Okay, so you know like what's gonna happen
Oh
and
yeah,
all that fun stuff.
oh yeah, yeah. That I've listened to. I've read them a ton of times. I've listened to them a ton of times.
Hmm.
That's why I was so excited to read the new stuff to
Hmm.
see him, because when they rescued him from Legends and put him into Rebels and actually started writing new books for him, I
Hmm.
he was a really cool character then, and now I like him even more in the current canon.
Right. Okay, that's fair.
How far did you get in that series? You only read
Um,
one book?
I haven't finished it. I read the first one, and I actually really enjoyed it. I really liked it a lot. So I do have the second one downloaded already. Um, I got distracted with Wheel of Time,
Okay.
so that
My
that put
bad.
a pin in it, and then we got distracted again. So we're just getting I'm getting diverted here all over the place, but it's fine.
Sounds fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Totally fine. All right. What about you? How's your Stormlight slog coming?
It's good. I've slogged. I read a little bit on our flight home the other day, so that was good. I'm in another Adeline and Dalamar chapter right now, so it's where I'm at the point where they are at. Oh man, I just remembered his name earlier. I was all excited that I was remembering names. Alucard, is that right?
Elokar, yeah, the
Alucard.
king.
They're at his castle. He's having like a feast or something. I just started that chapter. So,
Okay.
and there's a lot of uh, Dalamar's talking to someone named. Well, I actually don't know if they're named this or if it's just a title or something. The Wit.
Yeah, wit.
So, is that like a King's Jester type thing, but except you're just witty?
It's talked about earlier in the that part of the book too. Yeah, he's more than a fool. He's very important to the entire like Cosmere universe. In fact, he's one of the central players for that. So
He was very entertaining. I really liked
yeah,
his. He did not give a damn about who he was talking about.
his whole thing is he can insult people. If someone wants to kill him, then they forfeit all their lands and property. But he's so they can kill him if he insults them so gravely that they want to do it, but then they lose all claim to everything. Like they lose everything.
Man.
So yeah, he can just act with impunity. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, because he at first I was like, okay, he's being funny. And then he just kind of kept saying things, and I was like, oh, you just say whatever you want, and it is fine.
Oh yeah, it's great. I really like it.
It was very entertaining. So, yeah, I'm just there now, and then I'm hopefully will be reading more of it this weekend.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's dense material.
It is. It feels. I know I mentioned this to you privately, but it feels a lot more dense than Wheel of Time did.
Yeah, it builds. It does build. And the way they interweave it with Kaladin's storyline is really good.
So we'll see what keeps happening, but I don't mind. Oh, you're gonna find this probably hilarious. I don't know why. For whatever reason, I first thought Adeline was a girl. It just sounds like a girl name.
Adolin,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously he's not. So not that that matters. I just found it entertaining that that's what my first thought would be when I heard the name.
It is funny. Yeah. Yeah, that's too bad. Poor Adolin.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, I think he will be, in
I,
fact.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he dies in the book.
He might.
Maybe he's not fine.
She might. I don't know.
So, no, it's good though. So we'll just, I'm going to keep slogging through it. It's definite. I mean, it's long. It's massive. Actually, I went to a Barnes and Noble the other day. The very first time I've been to a Barnes and Noble because they don't have them in Canada.
Oh,
And they did not have Way of Kings
The Way of Kings?
on. Yeah, they didn't have it on the. They had a ton of his books. They didn't. I don't know if they were just out of stock or what the deal was.
Whoa.
But I wanted to actually see like how big it was because it's so long on the audio version. So I just wanted to see like the actual book.
Yeah. Well, you're missing that there's a ton of illustrations and stuff too. It's a very pretty book, actually.
Okay, that's fair. So I'm
But
missing.
like Shalon does her sketches. That you have Shalon's sketchbook. You see a lot of little annotations that she has of all the different creatures and everything.
I like that though. Like that's the one thing that you miss out with the audiobooks.
Yeah, the maps and the sketches. It's too bad.
It's all right. I'll adjust.
I suppose you will with that.
Yeah. No other choice.
Nope. None. All right. Should we call it good?
Yeah, I think that's it. We've gone over everything.
Yeah, we should start doing this live at some point.
Yeah, maybe we will.
Maybe we will. All right.
That's it.
Yeah. Some point we'll have some kind of sassy ending.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. And then yeah, I guess next week will be more. It is only House of the Dragon and Rings of Power still next week. Well, I guess She-Hulk too, but we might not. Yeah. That might be another sacrificial lamb. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah, I'll probably watch the third one at some point.
Oh yeah, me too.
This week.
Me too, for sure.
Cool. All right. So it's over. We'll see you next week. Go join our Discord server.
Goodbye.